we are now going to talk about personal service providers. Now, personal service providers, usually companies, and all I want you to understand about a personal service provider is that they are restricted in the amount of deductions that they can claim, and they also have the strange situation that they might be treated as an employee. So a personal service provider company doing work for another company might be treated as an employee. Right, so that's a strange situation that you might get. So let's have a quick little chat around first what's happening here and so on. Right, so here is company X. Okay, there's a guy or girl, let's say Sammy, and Sammy works for company X as a financial accountant. Sammy earns a salary of 1.2 million rands for the year. Okay, so a nice decent salary. And Sammy, what can we say more about Sammy? Right, okay, yes, Sammy. And then you need to understand that Section 23M applies. Now, can you remember what Section 23M says? Section 23M says you may only claim the following, and then it's retirement deductions, bad debts, doubtful debts. You may claim wear and tear if you have an asset that you have to use for your job, legal costs. Right, yeah, so that's basically the majority of it. Oh, and home office expenses. So basically, if Section 23M applies if you earn a salary, mostly a salary, then it tells you can only deduct these things. This is what stops, if you are earning a salary currently, this is what stops you from claiming a petrol deduction, or when you're going through the toll gates from claiming a deduction against your tax. You can't because Section 23M tells you to do it. But now, if you earn a commission, this rule doesn't apply to you. So if you earn a commission, you can claim toll fees, you can claim petrol, all of those things. When else could you also claim it? If you're a company. Okay, so now Sammy goes, and Sammy says, alright, I'm a financial accountant, and actually I'm going to change this. Let's say Sammy earns a salary of 1.8 million rands. The reason why I want to put it is if this means that Sammy is currently in the highest tax bracket, the 45% tax bracket. Okay, so Sammy says, you know, I'm not so happy with this. What I'm going to do is I have a plan. I'm going to create a company called SPTY Limited. Then I'm going to use SPTY Limited because what I'm going to do is I am going to resign from company X and I'm going to work here as an employee for SPTY Limited. Because when I work for company X and this salary, every month I get my salary, and from that they'll deduct also things like pay as you earn. So the amount I get in my bank account is different, and I don't like that. I don't want to do that. And I also want to claim all deductions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to resign here and I'm going to work for SPTY Limited. SPTY Limited is then going to go to company X and say, we have this person called Sammy, which was your employee just yesterday, and Sammy is going to still be your financial accountant. But what's going to happen is, company X, you will pay SPTY Limited 1.8 million rands for the year, and SPTY Limited will then pay Sammy, or SPTY Limited will then declare it as a dividend to Sammy, whatever the case might be. The reason why we want to do it is because if SPTY Limited is the one earning this, Section 23M will not apply. So Sammy, all the Sammy's petrol costs today, Sammy incurs, all of the other costs, we can claim that as a deduction. So that will decrease our tax, plus our tax is at 28%. Right, for the company. There's dividends tax and all those things, obviously, but just in simple terms is what I want you to understand. Now, this is not a great situation, because this means we're using companies and things to hide what we're actually doing, because Sammy was the financial accountant for company X, and Sammy is still basically doing the work of the financial accountant. Same thing, the company's even paying the same amounts. Okay, so let's see then what a personal service provider is. If you are a personal service provider, you will pay tax at 28% if you're a company, and if you're a personal service provider and you're a trust, it's 45%. Your deductions are limited that you can claim in terms of Section 23K. And you are treated as an employee for employees' tax. So let me just explain to you what that quickly means. When Sammy works as an employee for company X, Sammy earns a salary, and every month they deduct pay as she earns. So the amount that you get in the bank is after tax. This is one of the reasons why Sammy wanted to form SP2I Limited, so that doesn't happen. That says now, if SP2I Limited is a personal service provider, company X will pay SP2I Limited 1.8 million rands, less pay as you earn. Right, so that same thing will still happen. We said here you can claim whatever you want as a deduction because Section 23M doesn't apply. If this is a personal service provider, Section 23K will apply, which tells you what you can claim as a deduction. So if you are a personal service provider, guys, you have limitations. So when are you a personal service provider? And use this example I just gave of Sammy as a background. So personal service provider is any company or trust where any service rendered on behalf of such company or trust to a client of such company is rendered personally by any person who is a connected person. Okay, so what are they saying? They're saying, okay, let's clean up a little bit. Okay, what they're saying is, we're now looking at the company, SP2I Limited. SP2I Limited does work for Company X. Company X pays X, or SP2I Limited does 1.8 million rands. Okay, let's just assume it's not a personal service provider. They say, who does the work? SP2I Limited is doing work for Company X, but who is actually doing the work? So who is the employee doing the work for Company X? In this case, it's Sammy. So SP2I Limited is using Sammy. Now they ask, is Sammy a connected person to SP2I Limited? So does Sammy have 20% or more of the shares in SP2I Limited? The answer is yes. So that means the first part of that requirement is met. And A, B, or C, and I want you to see these are all ors, or and or. All right, so it means one of these requirements must be met. One or more must be met. First requirement is, such a person, so in this case they're talking about Sammy, would be regarded as an employee of such client. The client is Company X. If such service is rendered by such person, Sammy, directly to such client, Company X, other than on behalf of such company. So what they're saying is, they say, who is doing this work for Company X now? So SP2I Limited has given an employee to Company X. Who have they given? Sammy. Now they ask, would Sammy be considered an employee of Company X if Sammy worked for Company X instead? And the answer is yes, because remember, that's what Sammy previously did. And I'm just pointing out, Sammy was a financial accountant, Sammy is still. So if SP2I Limited wasn't involved, would Sammy be employed? Absolutely. So they're doing the work of an employee, is basically what they're saying. So that's already met. Or B, where those duties must be performed mainly at the premises of the client. Such person or such company or trust is subject to the control or supervision of such client as to the manner in which the duties are performed or are to be performed in rendering such service. So what are they saying? They say, is Sammy required to work at the premises of the client? So who's the client, guys, the whole time? Remember, Company X is the client. Must Sammy do this work at Company X? And can Company X tell Sammy what to do? The answer is yes. It's not SP2I Limited telling Sammy, it's the company. Because he's still basically, or he or she, Sammy, is still employed. Alright, see? Where more than 80% of such income or trust during the year from services rendered consists of or is likely to consist of amounts received directly or indirectly from any one client. So they say if your company has 80% or more of the income from one client, so if company X in this case is giving all of our income to SP2I Limited, it is more than 80%. Okay, so that's met. So all those are met. Then they say except where such company employs 3 or more full-time employees during the year on a full-time basis, and they are not a holder of shares, so other than a holder of shares, or a not connected person. So this is the same as what we saw with small business corporation. They're saying if this company does employ 3 or more full-time employees, they are not shareholders and they are not connected to the shareholders, so proper independent employees, then you are not a personal service provider. So the moment Sammy goes and employs 3 or more people to help do the work, then SP2I Limited will no longer be a personal service provider company. Right, then you also just need to know what is a labor broker. We're going to, that's important, you'll see just now for the next discussion. What is a labor broker? So a labor broker is any natural person who conducts or carries on any business whereby such person for reward provides a client of such business with other persons to render service or perform work for such clients. Now, we hear there's a lot in South Africa about labor brokers. So here's Company X. Company X needs 10 workers. Company X does not want to conclude contracts with the 10 workers. So what Company X does is X goes to Mr. A. Mr. A is a labor broker. Mr. A has access to lots of different people that want to work. Right, lots of different people that want to work. So Mr. A says, okay, Company X, you pay me 100,000 rands and I will give you 10 workers. So Company X does not employ the workers, Mr. A does. Mr. A is the labor broker, he gives the people. He doesn't even employ them, he just breaks the deal, brokerages the deal. So that's a labor broker. Now, if you are a labor broker, you also have special rules in terms of Section 23K that you need to be aware of. So Section 23K tells you that no deductions shall be made for a labor broker and a personal service provider. That's why we speak about it. So what can a labor broker and a personal service provider deduct? They can only deduct, so other than, so this says you may deduct this. So personal service providers and labor brokers may only deduct the following. Any expense which is an amount paid to an employee. So I'm going to write it here, payment to employees. Alright, so anything you pay to them. If it will be taken into account in the taxable income of such employee. Alright, so that should be the fine. Any expense, deduction or contribution per paragraph C of section 11, right? So section 11C is legal cost. Section 11I is bad debts. L is contribution to funds of your employees. NA and NB. NA is if you repay a salary for employee. NB is if you repay something like a restraint of trade. Right, so repayment. So I'm going to say refund. So that's if you paid your employee, you paid someone too much, or you're returning money. Right, so someone, for example, paid you as a personal service provider 100,000 rands. They should have only paid you 10,000, and you pay that back. So you can claim a deduction for that. Right, and then you can claim expenses in respect of premises. So premises expenses, guys, that will be things like rent, water and electricity, things that relate to the premises, so your business premises. Finance charges, okay, which is interest. Insurance, repairs, fuel and maintenance, and that is in respect of assets which are used wholly and exclusively for the purpose of trade. And the premises must also be. So they're saying the premises and all of your assets which you're claiming these deductions on must be used exclusively for trade. So you can't be working from home at all in this case. Right, so that is then the only amounts which you are allowed to claim as a deduction if you are a personal service provider or a labor broker.